What's up everybody, it's Justin with Supreme Suspensions again, coming at you with our Tacoma in the shop today. Today, we're going to talk about U-bolt flip kits, the what's, the whens, and the whys of the kit. In off-roading, every bit of clearance counts. This kit's designed to help provide the maximum amount of clearance at the axle clamping point and prevent damage that could make future service more difficult, like bent U-bolts or damaged threads, which then need to be cut off if you're going to service or replace any of the components in the area. It's not uncommon for aftermarket or OEM U-bolt systems to hang down far enough to actually get caught up on an off-road obstacle. Whether it's a tree stump or a rock or the edge of an oddball rut that you're hitting. This kit removes those hanging portions from under the axle to help provide you the most off-road ability. So let's talk about how the kit actually functions. Most OEM truck setups have a square over-the-top U-bolt that has a clamping plate underneath the axle. That clamping plate and the U-bolts protrude down from the axle and reduce the ground clearance in that area. This kit flips that system upside down using a round U-bolt to go from under the axle up and replaces it with the clamping plate on top. This system gives you protrusion underneath the axle that only extends 5/8 of an inch below the axle tube, unlike on this truck where the OEM system is about 2 1/4 to 2.5 inches depending on how you measure it. So let's talk a little bit about the components of this kit. The primary component of the kit is our axle plate itself. This is massive 1/2 inch thick A36 S400 steel. It's actually got two 3/8 by 16 holes that are 4.5 inch center on center to accommodate a variety of bump stop solutions. That could be a modified OEM bump stop, that could be a set from Sumo or Durobump or Timbren, or in this truck's case, a Wheeler's off-road bracket with super bumps. The plate is coated in a 3-stage proprietary electrostatic finish that undergoes 1,000 hours of salt spray testing in a lab. That meets or exceeds the ASTM B117 standards. So all you guys that live in an area where your roads get salted during the winter, we've got you covered. You're going to be rust-free for the life of the product. The next key component of this kit is the hefty 5/8 U-bolts. Most OEM applications come with either a 1/2 inch or a 9/16 U-bolt. This 5/8 is a huge upgrade from that in strength and longevity. One of the key features of these U-bolts is that we use a fine thread pitch. This allows for increased torque holding with less likelihood of slippage, like some of the common overseas U-bolts we'll see after harsh vibrations in off-road driving conditions. The U-bolts are produced in an ISO 9001 certified facility and meet, or in most cases, greatly exceed OEM standards. They also use an OEM style polymer E-coat to provide maximum abrasion and corrosion resistance. Also included, high strength tall shouldered hex nuts and heavy washers to match with them. Let's talk applications. This kit has a ton of fitments. Pretty much any truck with a 2 1/4 to 2.5 inch wide leaf spring and a 3.5 inch diameter axle tube can utilize this kit. The best improvements are obviously going to be seen on trucks that come from the factory with a square top-down U-bolt. But even applications that already have a round underslung U-bolt can still see a huge improvement based on the increased U-bolt size and the flexibility for various bump stop mounting options. One of the big things is this is not locked into Supreme suspension components. We love for you to use our kits, but this will work with whatever you've got. Whether it's an OEM truck that you just want a little more clearance on, whether you've got lift block kit in the back, add-a-leafs, or even full-on leaf packs in the rear of the truck, this kit can be adapted for that situation. Check out our website, supremesuspensions.com, for our listed applications. If you don't see yours on there, give us a ring and talk to one of our ASE certified techs, and they'll get you squared away with what you need for your application. Now that some of the technical info is out of the way, let's get this Tacoma in the air and get the kit installed. All right, so now that we've got the wheel off, we can support the axle. In our case, we're doing it with a spin jack, but you could do this in a driveway with another jack stand or a hydraulic jack and do it just the same. We just happen to be fortunate enough to have the hoist. Once you've got the spin jack down here holding up the axle, we're going to go ahead and remove the OEM plate and U-bolts. So right down here, we've got our 4 U-bolt protrusions. We're going to take these 4 nuts off and we're going to go ahead and remove this whole plate away from the assembly. Let's get started on that. Now with that factory plate off, we can reach up above, pull the OEM U-bolts off. All right, now that we have the other OEM components removed, we're ready to install the U-bolt plate. If you're running pneumatic or hydraulic bump stops, feel free to orient the landing pad in whichever direction is suitable for where yours are mounted on the frame. If you're using your OEM or a similar style replacement bump stop, we typically recommend putting the landing pad out towards the wheel. Before installing this, try to get as much dirt and dust as possible off the top of the U-bolt. There's a good chance that some has built up over the years while it was uncovered. We're gonna go ahead and wipe it down with a brush and rag real quick and go ahead and get this thing installed. Now that we've got the top of the leaf spring clean, we're gonna go ahead and put our plate in. That large center hole on top of the plate should fit cleanly over the U-bolt center pin. Depending on the application, whether you're reusing your bump stops or an aftermarket solution, you may need to trim the top of your center pin just a little bit so that it sits flush with the top of the plate. All right, so now we're back under the truck. We're gonna go ahead and put the U-bolts in from the bottom side up and secure them with a washer and a nut from up on top. All right, so now we're gonna go back up on top. We're gonna torque these down, hit them with the impact, and use a torque wrench to get them to where they're supposed to be. We'll get into that in just a second. All right, so back up on top, we're gonna button these down with an impact. When we're done with that, we're gonna hit them with the torque wrench. Your OEM style 1/2 inch or 9/16 U-bolts are typically between 90 to 110 foot-pounds. These 5/8 bad boys, we're gonna take them up to 130 to 150 foot-pounds. So get ready for a workout with your torque wrench. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, this particular truck, we're using a Wheelers off-road bracket with a super bump stop on it. This bracket matches up perfectly with our 4.5 inch pattern up on top of the plate. We're gonna go ahead and set this in place and tighten that down. All right, and at this point, we can go ahead and lower the jack supporting our axle. We're pretty much ready to put the wheels back on and get on the road. All right, now with the wheels and tires back on, we can lower this thing to the ground and we're ready to roll. Remember to check out Supreme Suspensions on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, and check out our website to keep up to date with all the cool new products.